December 1943. A crippled American bomber limps across German skies. Enemy fighters close in for the kill. But then something impossible happens. The German pilot pulls alongside. He doesn't shoot. Instead, he guides the damaged bomber towards safety, risking his own life to save his enemies. This is the story of Franz Stigler and Charlie Brown. A moment of humanity in the deadliest war in history. What happened next would remain secret for 40 years. 1. The bomber was dying in the air. 2. Franz saw something that changed everything. 3. He made a choice that could get him executed. Here I shall explain one by one. Please see video to the end. The Dying Bomber. December 20th, 1943. The sky over Germany was cold and deadly. Charlie Brown was flying his B-17 bomber called Ye Old Pub back from a mission. But everything had gone wrong. German anti-aircraft guns had opened fire on them. Flak shells exploded all around the plane. Sharp metal pieces ripped through the bomber like it was made of paper. The plane was torn apart. Half of Charlie's crew was bleeding and wounded. The tail gunner was dead, lying in a pool of frozen blood in the back. One engine was completely destroyed and gone. Another engine was on fire and smoking badly. The plane was shaking and barely staying in the sky. They were deep inside enemy territory. German fighter planes were everywhere in the sky. Charlie could barely see through his cracked and broken windscreen. His co-pilot was wounded and kept passing out. The oxygen system was destroyed. It was freezing cold inside the plane, 30 degrees below zero. Every single second they stayed in the air felt like a miracle. German radar stations had already spotted their damaged bomber. But someone else saw them too. A German pilot who was taking off for his afternoon patrol. Franz Stigler's morning. The bomber was dying in the air. Franz Stigler was a German fighter pilot. He was very skilled and experienced. He had already shot down 27 Allied planes during the war. Just one more kill would earn him something special. The Knight's Cross. It was Germany's highest military honor. Every pilot dreamed of earning it. That morning, before taking off, Franz talked with his commander. His commander was an older pilot named Gustav Rodel. Gustav told him something very important. "You will always fight with honor," he said. "You follow the rules of war." Then Gustav said something Franz would never forget. "If I ever hear you shot a man in a parachute, I'll shoot you myself." Franz took those words very seriously. He believed in honor and the rules of combat. Now he was climbing into the cold winter sky. His mission was simple: find enemy bombers and shoot them down. His radar officer called out a target. A crippled American bomber was trying to escape. Franz pushed his throttle forward and climbed higher. He had no idea this one bomber would change his entire life. The shocking discovery. Franz saw something that changed everything. Franz spotted the American bomber ahead. It was flying low and slow, too slow. He could tell it was badly damaged. This would be an easy kill. His 28th victory. One step closer to the Knight's Cross. His finger moved to the trigger button. He pulled his fighter plane closer to confirm his target. Standard procedure before shooting. Then he flew right up next to the bomber, close enough to see inside. What he saw made him freeze. The bomber had massive holes torn in its side. He could see directly into the plane. Blood was splattered everywhere. It was frozen on the metal walls. Wounded men were crawling around, trying to help each other. Some weren't moving at all. The pilot was slumped forward, barely conscious. He was fighting just to keep his eyes open. Franz suddenly thought about his own younger brother, and everything changed. The impossible choice. He made a choice that could get him executed. Franz flew right next to the bomber. His mind was racing with thoughts. He remembered his commander's words from that morning. Fight with honor. This wasn't a fighting plane anymore. This was a flying coffin. These weren't warriors anymore. They were dying boys trying to get home, just like his younger brother might be somewhere. Shooting them would not be combat. It would be murder. But Franz also knew the rules. Letting an enemy escape was treason. Helping an enemy was even worse. The punishment for treason in Germany was death. Execution by firing squad. His family would be shamed forever. Everything he had worked for would be destroyed. Franz looked at the American pilot again. Their eyes met through the broken glass. Two young men, both far from home, both just trying to survive this terrible war. Franz made his decision right there. He pulled his fighter plane alongside the bomber's wing, wingtip to wingtip. He wasn't going to shoot. Instead, he did something that would risk his entire life. The escort across Germany. Franz flew right next to the bomber, just a few meters away, close enough to touch. Charlie Brown couldn't believe what he was seeing. A German fighter was right there, not attacking, not shooting, just lying beside them peacefully. Franz pointed down toward the ground below. He was signaling them to land. Land in Germany. They would become prisoners of war, but they would live. They would survive. Charlie shook his head no. Even half-conscious, he understood. He was going to try to reach England, try to make it home. Franz understood completely. He would do the same thing. So Franz made an even crazier decision. He would escort them to safety, protect them from other German fires, guide them across German territory to the coast. They started flying together. Franz stayed glued to the bomber's left wing. They flew low over German towns and villages, over military bases in anti-aircraft gun positions. Any one of those guns could shoot them down. But something strange started happening on the ground below them. The miraculous flight. They flew together across 100 miles of German territory. Every anti-aircraft battery they passed could have fired. Every gun position could have opened up. But something incredible happened instead. The German gunners all held their fire. They didn't shoot at either plane. Why? Because they thought the American bomber was captured. Franz's fighter flying right next to it looked like an escort, like he was bringing in a prisoner, leading a captured plane to a German airfield. Inside the bomber, Charlie's crew was confused and scared. Some men thought the German pilot was playing with them, toying with them before the kill. Others thought he was leading them into a trap. But Charlie kept watching Franz's face. He could see him clearly through the canopy glass. He saw something in his eyes, something human, something kind. They flew together for 15 long minutes, past forests and farms, past enemy airfields full of German planes. The North Sea was getting closer now, the edge of enemy territory. Gray ocean water stretched ahead toward England, toward safety and home. Franz pulled his fighter even closer now, so close their wingtips almost touched, close enough that Charlie could see Franz's eyes clearly, see the expression on his face. Franz looked directly at the American pilot, right into his eyes. Then Franz did something incredible. He raised his gloved hand slowly, a military salute, clean and crisp and respectful. Not mocking, not threatening. A salute between two warriors, between equals, between men who understood each other. Charlie, barely able to move, raised his own hand. He saluted back. Two enemies saluting each other with respect. Franz's voice came over the radio. He was speaking in German, but Charlie couldn't understand the words. Franz waved one final time. Then he banked his fighter plane hard to the left. He disappeared back toward Germany, back toward his war, his duty. The American bomber limped across the freezing sea, and somehow, impossibly, they made it home, alive. 46 years of silence, Charlie Brown landed his destroyed bomber in England. He and his crew had survived the impossible. But when he told his story to military intelligence officers, they didn't believe him. Not even for a second. No German pilot would ever do that, they said. You must be confused from your head injuries. So Charlie stopped talking about it, but he never forgot that German pilot's face. After the war ended in 1945, Franz Stigler went back to normal life. He never told anyone what he had done that day. In Germany, people called him a war hero. But Franz knew the truth. He had committed treason. Talking about it could still be dangerous, even years later. 4 decades passed. 46 long years. Both men grew old, had families, built new lives. But Charlie became obsessed. He needed to find that German pilot. He needed to know why. Why did he do it? In 1990, Charlie was 70 years old. He was running out of time, so he placed one final, desperate advertisement. The phone call. Charlie placed an ad in a military veteran newsletter. It was simple and direct. Looking for the German pilot who saved my B-17 crew over Germany on December 20th, 1943. He included specific details. Details only the real pilot would know. The type of bomber, the location, the holes in the fuselage, the salute at the coast over the North Sea, things no one else could possibly remember. He waited. Days passed with no response. Then 1 week. Charlie started losing hope. Maybe the pilot was already dead. Maybe he would never know the truth. Then, 4 days after the ad appeared, his phone rang. He picked it up. A voice spoke with a thick German accent. "Hello, my name is Franz Stigler. I think I am the pilot you are looking for." Charlie's heart stopped. His hands started shaking. After 46 years of wondering, the voice on the phone said, "I remember your plane. I remember you." What Franz described next proved beyond any doubt it was really him. Brothers forever. Franz described everything perfectly. Every single detail matched. The blood frozen on the walls. Charlie's wounded co-pilot slumped over. The dead tail gunner. The 3 destroyed engines. The salute at the coast over the North Sea. Everything. They talked on the phone for 4 hours that first night. 2 old men, former enemies, crying together. They met in person 1 month later. Franz flew to Franz's home in Canada. When they saw each other at the airport, they didn't shake hands. They hugged like brothers, like family. Both men cried openly. They spent a week together, talking and remembering, healing old wounds from the war. From that day forward, they became best friends. They met every single year.
talked on the phone every week. They called each other brothers. Their families became close. In 2008, Franz Stigler died at 92 years old. Charlie Brown died 8 months later. One act of mercy during war created a friendship that lasted forever. This is the true story of when a German pilot rescued an American crew during the darkest days of World War II. Franz Stigler, a Luftwaffe fighter ace, showed extraordinary mercy by sparing a downed American bomber instead of claiming his next kill. The B-17 rescue over Germany proved that even in total war, humanity could triumph over hatred. This German and American W-2 pilot encounter remained secret for 46 years. When Franz Stigler and Charlie Brown finally reunited, two former enemies became brothers for life. One German fighter ace's decision to save American airmen created the most remarkable pilot rescue story in W-2 history.